One. All right. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming in. I know it was a trial and a half coming in this heat and with the fire alarm pulled, but we really appreciate your patience and coming in. Welcome to our fireside chat during the pre-seed. Excited to have you all here and excited to have the folks online here as well. We can kind of just jump right into it. We got two hosts today. My name is Omar. I'm one of the project managers here at IBZ, and with us we also have Cece. Go ahead.
Hi guys, I'm the program lead. I know I'm sitting amongst our guest speakers because I wanted to keep Rand accompanied. But hi, welcome to the session, and we apologize for starting late to all our audience online. We should have started at 6:10, but we had a fire alarm. And thank God nobody had to come up 9-4 climbing all the steps. So happy that you guys are here. And thank you for all the live audience. Thank you for making it. We are really glad to have you here today.
Awesome. Thank you so
and
much.
And our guest speakers. Oh my God. Thank you so much.
I guess speaking of guest speakers in that case, we have two companies here. We have UCAS and MinuteSkill. So UCAS is a marketplace that just connects advertisers and content creators, and MinuteSkill is it helps founders build skills off like bite-sized content. But I'll leave that up to you guys to just explain it a little bit better. So Rand, you want to start us off?
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Rand. I'm the founder of UCAS, and exactly like you said, we are a marketplace and an ad management platform that helps connect brands to podcasters to launch ad campaigns. We recently raised our pre-seed, and this is why we're here, I guess.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
MinuteSkill, go ahead.
Attention, please.
God.
Petition has been investigated, and the situation declared all clear.
All clear.
Service to the elevators will be restored. Please return to your regularly scheduled activities. Thank you.
Yeah.
Attention, please. The alarm condition has been investigated.
All right, give us a second, you guys.
All clear. I repeat, the situation is all clear.
Can online audience hear us, right? Okay, good.
Please return to your
So we
regularly
can hear all this.
I want to see the
Oh my God, I want to see the comments.
Attention, please. The alarm condition has been investigated, and the situation declared all clear. I repeat, the situation is all
We
clear.
got it. The first
Service
time
to
we
the
saw
elevators
it.
will be restored. Please return to your regularly scheduled activities.
We're trying.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right,
Okay,
I think
we're
that's
all
it. I think
clear.
that's it. Okay.
Sorry. But please continue.
I'm Camila. I'm one of the co-founders of MinuteSkill, and this is my second co-founder, Nathan. MinuteSkill is a micro-learning platform and network. It's built for early-stage founders to connect with other founders and build their capacities on learning how to build their startups.
Lovely. The bite size, just like your content. Love it. In that case, moving on to the actual fireside chat itself. Before we do jump into that, though, you guys will notice there's something off to the right-hand corner. That's the parking lot document that we have. So if any of you during the course of the fireside chat have any questions at all, just scan the QR code, and you guys should be able to just put in your audience questions, and we'll go through them all at the end. And for our audience live, we have one of our coworkers who will be dropping the link to the Mentimeter as well, so that you guys can drop your comments as well there. But yeah, if we can kind of jump right into it. I know we kind of talked a little bit about your companies, but I'd love to hear just in a little bit more detail about each of the companies here before we kind of jump into the nitty gritty of it all. So again, MinuteSkill, do you guys want to start this time?
Like where they are.
Yeah, exactly. Like where you guys are in terms of your growth, and just like in terms of your company like level, I suppose.
For sure, yeah. So where MinuteSkill's at right now is we recently launched a beta. We had over 250 users. We got a lot of amazing feedback from founders. The content, they said it was much more accessible, much more digestible, and they had a better overall experience. With that, we raised a small pre-seed round with Antler Canada, the global venture firm and accelerator program. We raised about $220,000 with them, and now we're currently coming out of beta, we're onboarding around 16 organizations this summer to host their communities within Minskill with all their founders. We'll be raising another round actually right now. I just realized.
Congratulations. Love that.
Yeah, they deserve a round of applause, right?
Ryan, take it over.
Yeah, very, very similar story. We won a $25,000 grant, which is when we started the company. We were able to launch our beta within a month. We got over 10K in sales immediately, which was like our first sign, holy shit, we might be onto something. And then we immediately raised our pre-seed. We raised around $150,000. And then we launched our product to market. We got some of the biggest clients that we have right now is Empire record labels. So they're advertising artists like Moneyman, and they're managed people like Snoop Dogg, like XX. And essentially they're advertising their artists through podcasts on our platform, which is the first use case of music and podcasting together. So just exciting stuff, just playing around, working with artists, working with creators. It's just overall been a fun journey. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Congrats.
Super sweet. Yeah.
Super proud of you.
So something you actually mentioned about, raising 10K and realizing that, hey, might be onto something.
150K.
25.
Okay.
Brings up an interesting question, actually. At what point did you as a co-founder realize that this idea actually deserved to be a company on its own, and was it just like a hobby or a one-time thing? I'd love to hear the insight into that.
Yeah, honestly, from day one, as soon as when we got the 25K, that's immediately when we went full time and we went all in. We knew we wanted to start a business. My co-founder is not with me anymore, but at that time we both knew we wanted to start a startup. I had just graduated from the TRSM undergrad program, and it was during the pandemic, and I was like, okay, I have nothing to do. I don't want to work full time. So immediately we went full time. It's not like we waited for a period of time where it was a side hustle until we decided we wanted to go into it, because we knew if it was a side hustle, it was going to take such a long time for us to get to the point where we wanted to. Really, the only reason we were able to accelerate our growth as fast as we did was because we went full in. And from the get-go, we were working like 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. They even gave us like an award there that says most office best friend, I think. Yeah,
Office
best
bestie.
friend. Yeah, office bestie.
Yeah,
Because we're here all the
hustling.
time. Yeah. But yeah, that's honestly, it was from the get-go, like even before the beta, we're like, okay, we want to go full in, test it out for a year. If we didn't get funding within the year, we were going to let it go, but we did. So yeah.
So I do actually have a question that I
Yeah.
want to ask. I'm just curious, how did you get into this space?
Um,
What's fascinated you in the beginning?
in the podcasting space?
Yes.
So I started podcasting, and I've always been a chatty person.
Okay.
So I was like, why not? And I started meeting just like the coolest people on Twitter. Like I met with the inventor of the hashtag, which I'm like, I didn't even know the hashtag had an inventor.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, the inventor of the hashtag, that's so sick. And like the #1 product hunter, and like these like really niche cool people in tech that you just never hear of. And I was like, okay, I want to start talking to them. And really the only way that they were going to talk to me is if I had a podcast, because otherwise they won't, spend their time.
You have
So
to
I was-
become one of them.
Exactly. I had
Yeah.
to become one of them. So I was like, okay, I'm starting a podcast called Gen 3, which is everything tech with, Gen Z. And yeah, that's really how I got into the space.
That's really cool. I didn't learn that from you, so I thought it's a great opportunity for the audience to learn as well. Okay, moving on.
That's awesome.
Minskill?
Same thing. I'd love to hear when you guys realized that this deserved to be its own company.
I think I realized it when I brought the idea to Nathan, and he was a big believer in it. I was kind of skeptical. I thought, well, we don't really need it. We kind of have TikTok. Like, I don't know. It's kind of just an add-on on TikTok. And Nathan was very much like, no, this is good. Like, this is something we all need. And that really motivated me. And then again, when we started doing a little bit of discovery with content creators, and they started to really give interest into the platform, that's what really pushed me to think we're onto something.
That's awesome.
I think for me, it hit in the middle of our validation. We did over like 60 discovery calls with organizations like accelerators, more of the founders, and we found these common themes, and we're just like, okay, there is something here. I remember at one particular moment, around last year at this time, we did the tree growing accelerator, and we did an open house with them, and we met so many people there, and they're like, guys, you have no idea how badly the corporate learning space needs this sort of innovation. And we started connecting with a ton of different creators and corporations, and from that moment we were like, okay, so this is a massive market shift that's happening right now. We're going to build it and take it to market and see what happens. And then shortly after we did, and it's just been kind of like a weird roller coaster since typical startup stuff.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That market research comes in handy sometimes.
Sorry, just to follow her. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just very curious.
Take it away.
I know Nathan a lot. We connect on a bi-weekly basis, but Nathan, do you think COVID played an important role in speeding up your success?
Absolutely.
And how so?
I think because we are able to connect with so many people like globally in a matter of like in 1 week we could talk to like so many people around the world. And normally you'd have to commute and meet people, have a 30-minute conversation, commute back, and all sorts of things. You just couldn't talk to as many people as you could before.
Right.
Of course, remote learning was at the height during COVID, and everyone hated that online learning experience, including ourselves. And so at that moment, we saw massive churn on other platforms. People were just so dissatisfied with the learning. And en masse, people were fleeing to platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and they wanted to have a sort of a leaner learning experience where they learn exactly what they want, when they need it, and they apply it and they repeat it. And that's something only social media offered at the time. And other platforms like LinkedIn Learning and et cetera, they're very, long form. They're very siloed learning. They're very not connected to outcomes in your real life. And so we see people moving here, but of course, as an organization, you cannot send your students or employees to social media. It's just not safe. And so around that time, it was just like, wow, this is a massive market shift happening. COVID has accelerated this market shift, and we don't see it going back. We see over the next 10 years that form of old way that people learned is just going to be completely removed. And then the new way, the way that we learn on social media, will be the way that everyone learns.
Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, by the way, what's your favorite piece of content? I'm just a little curious that's been uploaded so far.
For myself, I don't want to play favorites to our content creators, but Slidebean's content on pitch decks, fundraising, honestly, lifesaver for us. We're currently going through the process, and we've just been loving their content. What about you, Camille?
Yeah, Slidebean has really quality content on learning the nitty-gritty about building a business. I think Laura Vaughn has really great content on leadership. And also mindfulness. That's always useful and good. Just feels good to listen to.
Go check those out.
For sure.
Yeah.
I guess in that case, move on to our next question. Before obviously we dive deep into the investor-related questions, just as a recap for the audience and the individuals online, again, I'd love to hear where you guys are in terms of your own fundraising journey. Recap.
Wait, so just a recap of what we said?
Where you are in your own company's fundraising journey right now.
Gotcha. So we just finished raising our pre-seed, $150,000. We're planning to raise our next round of $750,000 to $1 million in the next 6 to 8 months.
That's crazy. That's wild.
Right? I think about
as a student, those are just numbers that are insane to me. But that's so wild and amazing. Mansfield, get away.
Yeah, we're looking to raise. We're currently fundraising. We just kickstarted it off with our reveal day at Antler Canada. So we pitched to a pretty big room. It was really nerve-wracking, but it was an awesome experience. And that kind of kickstarted our next fundraise, which we're raising $700K on a safe, still sort of like a pre-seed, seed. Those round terms don't really define companies anymore, but that's what we're doing now. And over the next month, we'll be pretty much full-time on fundraising, really.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. Awesome. Cece, any follow-ups?
Oh, I was gonna ask, how do you know how much you want to raise, and how long is the money gonna last you? How do you know what you're gonna spend that money on? And is it the same you tell investors?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
I know this is not in our agenda, but yeah, you can just tell us.
As long as the investors are not watching. So with us, we knew, so with our first round, we knew what was the minimum for us in order to hire the first growth/salesperson to help us get to the like MRR that we need
Okay.
to be eligible for that 750 to 1 million. Exactly.
Yeah. MRR is to the audience who are not aware of it.
MRR is monthly recurring revenue. So essentially how much monthly you're making in revenue.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, it was for us, it was just like a backward calculation. We're like, okay, we want to raise our 1 million at this valuation by this date. So let's walk backward. Let's see what we need in terms of revenue, how much investors are looking for to be able to fund us this much. And then how much manpower do we need?
Mm-hmm.
And so it came out to like the minimum that we needed to raise was around $80,000
Okay.
for us to get to that step. We were able to get more than $80,000 just because an investor actually wanted to put a lot more money in, but we didn't want to give him more equity. So we're like, okay, no, we're capping it at 150. So that's, I guess, another point is that like you don't need to raise more than what you actually need because you're actually like, it's expensive money, especially the first time around.
Sure.
It's very expensive money. And then for the seed, it was again the same thing. It's just like walking backwards. Like for us to get to like our 10 to 20 million Series A, how many people do we need? How much revenue do we need to be making? And just literally just like walking backwards all the time.
Okay. So you set your strategic milestones and you work backwards to see how much you need in order to get to the next growth phase.
Yeah, and then there's a whole framework that you guys can look up as well, where you start by doing, your 5-year planning, then you walk backwards to your 3-year planning, then yearly planning, then quarterly, and then that's how you break it down.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. You guys?
Yeah, that's a really great answer. I wish we had that kind of answer. What we did is we initially were going to raise a lot less, and then the market, as I'm sure everybody here knows, was just absolutely exploded. And so now we're raising a little bit more to cover at least 18 months of runway because people are not sure when startups like us are going to be able to raise again. So that was kind of the strategy, along with looking at our next fundable milestones. So to get to a place where raising the next round will be a lot easier with the current with certain metrics. So the number of MRR, for example, or number of clients. And so we've been working through that, and we're still working through that actually with Antler. But yeah, I wish we had a more crystal clear answer. And really, it's about surviving this market down, and also at the same time growing with the metrics and the product side that Camilla handles. So then the next round, we can just present all these beautiful metrics and all these amazing things to raise, because we really don't know what it's going to look like in 12 months, 18 months from now.
That's a great answer. Camilla, do you have anything to add to that? Or he
It's a
said
lot.
it all?
I mean, yeah, it's a good summary of months of work of it. But yeah, it's just a lot of learning. We've never done this before. So talking with investors at Antler and learning from that, a lot of research and just iterations of it. We didn't initially land on the 700. It was a lot of iterations and working through financial models.
Yeah.
Also discussions with investors. Like, I think the easiest thing to do, or maybe not the easiest, but the best thing to do is just to go out to the market and talk about, hey, this is what we're doing. We're looking to raise. What would you recommend we raise with the context of the current market? And a lot of feedback was like, you guys got to raise more. You might not survive when the market fully hits rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we've been doing, and we're still doing to this day. We're going to every investor we talk to and say, this is what we're doing. We're early stage, so we can be uncertain about that. I guess later on we probably shouldn't be, but that's the best strategy for us right now.
So do you have a plan if the market goes to the rock bottom? Like, do you have a plan B?
Right now, it's basically raise fast, close fast, and survive. We have some revenue that's coming in, but really, it's like be as lean as possible, survive as many months as possible, cut costs where you can, and just extend runway. And honestly, close as fast as you can, and just hands off it for a while.
Amazing. Okay.
So something you actually mentioned piqued my interest. You brought up the term metrics. What are some of the metrics that you guys present to some of the investors? And you've been mentioning that you guys go back to the investors fairly often. So how has that changed from what you guys started off showing to what they are now?
They started off very general. I think it was like 3 metrics that was on our slide of the number of users, how long they stay on the app, and how many times they visit the app. They become more detailed based around engagement, because what's very important for us to show to investors is that people are actually learning on MinuteSkill. They come back to it every day, they want to be on it, and they want to take MinuteSkill and make it a habit and grow their business with MinuteSkill. So our metrics are shifting more towards the engagement. So how many people are commenting and liking and sharing videos. A lot of how long can they watch, like how much of the video do they get through. So if it's like 80% of the video, that means they're actually enjoying the video and they're actually taking something away. If they leave within the first 30 seconds, that doesn't mean anything to them. And those are the metrics that I'm really trying to focus on and become more detailed with as time goes on and as we get more users and I see more of the trends. I can hone in a lot more on those specific metrics around engagement and retention.
Sweet. Ryan, how about you? What's the podcast space look like in terms of metrics?
Yeah, because we're a marketplace, and we're not really doing content. It looks a little bit different. So for us, it's called GMV, or gross merchandise volume, which means how much. Like, think of it as Airbnb. The number of dollars that Airbnb makes is not necessarily how much money Airbnb takes, right? Because they take a percentage.
Yeah.
It's the exact same concept for us. The number of dollars that we make. If we're making $100,000 every month, that absolutely means nothing. Because what you're looking at is how much is our cut going to be. And then as we grow, like, how much do we need in GMV to realistically be able to get up to 100,000 MRR every month, right? Is that possible? Is that not? And so that's really the number that investors look for scalability. And then something called supply index, which is, are there enough podcasts to begin with in the world that are active for us to reach the potential growth that investors are looking for, like, let's say, 100 million ARR. Because eventually the big VCs, if you want to raise a Series A or a seed, really what they're looking for is, are you going to be the next company that is going to be, making 100 to 100 million ARR every year? So really, those are the metrics that we look for. Some deeper metrics is how many, what's the retention of our customers? How many repeating customers do we have? Are advertisers doing one campaign and saying this is not for us? Because that's essentially very negative. Do we have, high callback rate from podcasters? So those are the things that we look for on the marketplace.
So besides having those metrics, what are some of the other things you can do to prove your traction? Such as building online, like make yourself traceable online.
So
like
for
people
us,
vouch for your business testimonials. Do you have any other ways to prove your traction to investors?
So for us right now, the strategy that we're going about is growth hacking and email sequencing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do any for marketing stuff. I'm a product person, and I'm a user experience designer, and that's where my expertise is at. So I've never done sales. I've never sold anything before. And so I have to prove to investors that there is potential for growth using sequencing. And so what sequencing is, essentially, it is just putting emails on a platform and then having those launch automatically through prospect lists of thousands of people that you generate. And so learning how to do, which is literally what I was doing today.
Oh, okay.
So learning how to come up with strategies that work, because people are going to look at your emails and think they're spam. So understanding what is attractive to your customers, what is going to have a high open rate, a high click rate, because for us, social media does not work at all, and it does not make sense because we're B2B, right? So it's really understanding how we can leverage sequencing and growth hacking to get more customers.
Cool. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'd say other than like core metrics, something that we're leveraging is like the number of organizations. And what's really important to MinuteSkill is like the top market organization. So we're going out and trying our best to land the really top of the market in the innovation ecosystem. And by doing that, we sort of demonstrate to everyone else below them and everyone just in the market entirely that this is something worth value. And it's kind of been our strategy in terms of, besides that, it's really like Camille mentioned, all those metrics, how much of his engagement's happening. What's really important to Minskill is benchmarking us against current forms of learning. So of course, traditional e-learning platforms, they have a lot of churn, they have a low user experience, and people generally don't like them. Versus on social media, the experience is completely different, and the retention's a lot higher in terms of users. And so we're trying to situate ourselves to go to people and say, our retention's so much higher, learners don't leave us. They like the experience better, but they like it more than social media, which is typically described as toxic or distracting. This is the experience from Minskill. And so those two factors are really what we go to clients, investors, and everyone we talk to about Minskill. Like that's our kind of goals.
Makes sense. You're kind of creating the cascading effect by getting all the big names, and the other ones will follow, right? So makes a lot of sense. I like that strategy.
Yeah, that's an amazing answer from both companies. Thank you so much. I'm learning so much. This is wonderful. But again, one of the things that was brought up, and we've talked about this, is going to investors and showing all this stuff. But it's like, how do you even reach out, and how do you even find the right investors? What's that whole journey look like? Minskill, go for it.
I would say it's who you know. We started to build a network throughout the very beginning stages of Minskill and meeting a lot of people in the space. And so we were able to get in contact with Antler through someone else that we knew, and also with all the accelerators that we went through prior. And then that just accelerated our investment. And then now it's who we know through Antler and all the other connections we've made in the process that's giving us, that's opening up all the doors that we need.
It's really like build your relationships early on from the beginning. It's just an idea. Reach out to people, just learn about them, and then talk to them about what you're trying to build. Because those relationships go a long way when you're actually looking to fundraise. You could be like, hey, remember us? We're building this thing. We actually built it now, and we're looking to raise money. Do you know anybody? And then they're more likely to be like, we do. Here, talk to this person. I'd say the whole industry, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well, is that it's not only a knowledge industry, but it's a relationship-based industry. And so people who know people and connect with those people are much more likely to talk to you as and be more impactful with actually investing in you than if you just reach out cold, which is typically the strategy that I see a lot of startups do. They have like thousands of cold outreaches, which is a huge time, drainer. And so really trying to develop those relationships as early as possible, leveraging them later on. Hope for the best, I guess.
So my story is a little bit different. We started exactly the same story. We started at the beginning, building relationships. I would literally talk to every investor to a point where I spoke with the likes of Charles Hudson, which are like some of the biggest investors in the US. And I would sit in front of them and I would pitch this idea, and they would tell me everything that is wrong with the idea. And I would tell them, okay, that's cool. I'll take that back and I'll come to you in a couple of months with a product and you can see how it looks like. And we did exactly that. All of them still passed. I think we got maybe over 50 no's. And then it was I was getting restless. I was like, okay, we need to figure out how to make money and how to fundraise. And then so we started looking at the angel round, where we started looking at smaller people who wanted to put in 20,000, 30,000. They have money, they want to put it somewhere. And so that worked well for us, but we didn't close on the angels that we were talking to. The way we closed was actually on a client call. We talked to someone who booked a client call with us. He asked for a product demo. And as soon as he saw the product, he asked if we're fundraising. And we said, yes, we're currently talking to angels and about to close a round. He asked how much we're fundraising from them at what valuation. And he said, okay, I can close the entire round for you tomorrow, ditch the other angels. I'm a podcaster. I know the space. They are not. They're dumb money. I can give you strategic partnerships. And so within it overnight, we closed the round. So it was very cold.
Wow.
It was out of nowhere. And it was just it was within overnight, everything happened. And so while I think the warm intros are going, or like these relationships are going to come handy when we start raising our seed. But for the first small round, I found that the angel route was the best option because they don't necessarily like have all these opinions about the space yet or about the investment space. And so they just want to find the one person that they like and believe in to put in their money in. At least that's like what I found for us worked.
What were you thinking? Like overnight, did you sleep?
No, remember you guys
Did
were
you pinch yourself?
I asked you when you told us that.
Yeah.
Like, girl, did you sleep?
Remember that event? I was like in
Yeah.
my hoodie. I like had the hoodie on. I was like on a phone call. I was like, oh my god, okay, what valuation? I'm gonna send you the papers. And then I was on the phone call with my advisor. And so we have, this is actually another part to it that I'm gonna explain in a bit. But our advisor is like, okay, ask for a safe, ask this, no discount, send it to the lawyer. And I'm just like sending paperwork and overnight, like trying to close everything. It was one of the craziest nights. I think like I was here till like 11 p.m. just like signing everything. And it was a high that I've never felt before. I was like, holy shit, this is happening. And even like when it happened, I think it took us, even when we saw the money in the bank account, it took us like such a long time to understand,
to process it.
we have money.
Yeah.
You know, it's a completely different feeling. Like I don't know if it was the same for you guys, but till now I'm just like, I'm still acting like we don't have money.
That's a good strategy
yeah.
too. Right. What was your reaction when you guys saw the money in the bank?
It was a long time coming.
I feel like you felt you're like about time, but for me, I was like, oh man, this is our like bloodline that now has an end date. Before that, you can go for infinite time. You know, no one's put money in. You can just keep going along your own grid. Now that the money's in, you can see like your bloodline just slowly dropping every month, and so it's just scary.
Yeah.
I have an interesting question. Has your mindset changed after you have the money in the bank? Like, do you feel pressure now that I have stakeholders that I need to please? Has that changed how you guys operate or your mindset at all?
Maybe in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot more pressure and that need to impress. I think as time went on, it settled, and now we just know that we're doing something that we love and something that we believe in, and we've just been running on that.
That's amazing.
There's always pressure, and there will always be pressure.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not a bad thing. That keeps us going, and that pushes us to be like our best further than we could ever believe we could go. But aside from that inevitable pressure, it's just based on something we love and something we believe in.
I love that. Yeah, that's very genuine. What about you?
No, complete opposite. I'm like, no, I do not sleep anymore. I do not breathe anymore. I was, it's a lot of pressure, at least for me. I became a sole co-founder, and so now I'm like, okay, shit, like all of it is on me, right? And then I also like built such a good relationship with everyone, not just our investors or advisors, potential investors, and they're all like, everyone's faith is in you. We have employees that we pay. They're counting on you for their livelihood. And I'm like, shit, if I screw this up, I screw everyone up, right? And apparently the more you grow, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
Because then you start hiring people with kids and with families and
more responsibility.
more responsibility and more, exactly. And so I think I always looked at this founder life as such a glorious, when you look at a musician or an artist life that made it, you look at them like, oh my God, it's such a glorious life. I want to live it. But then when I experienced it, it's the complete opposite of the glorious life that I expected. It's a lot more pressure and a lot more humbling than I ever thought it would be. But it's also fun. Like, we have so much fun with it. Me and my team was experimenting. So it's like, it's a double-edged sword, I would say. But there's nothing else I would rather do. Like, yeah.
So how do you take some of the pressure off of yourself? Like, what are your secrets?
I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but
Maybe
honestly,
whisper to me first, and I'll decide whether it's appropriate.
weed. That's it. Like smoking.
Love that.
Like, that's the only way I sleep at this point.
For me, I do karaoke.
Karaoke, that's a
And
good
I scream
outlet.
my lungs out.
That's a good outlet.
That's for sure.
A lot healthier.
What about you guys? When you guys have pressure, what do you guys do? How to let it out?
We don't. No, I mean, I feel like for myself, I've before even getting into the startup world, I always had this notion that like it sucks. I knew it sucked. It's just something that I have like this drive to do, like this unrelenting, unforgiving drive to do. And so when I got into it, and there's so many highs. The highs are so high and the lows are so low. But like there's just nothing you'd rather do. Like you said, like, I feel like a lot of founders feel like that. But I knew it sucks. I knew the pressure is there. I knew the grind's there. And right now we're like in the trenches. We're going through it. The days are very long. You know, the pressure is just at an all-time high all the time. And at the same time, I'm like, yeah, there's nothing I'd rather do. Like, this is the best time of my life right now. Like we have a startup that's fundraising and we're fundraising, and like it's stressful, but you know, so I just try to keep that perspective as the days that I feel like everything's crumbling, which every day is always crumbling, and it's not as bad as you think, and nothing's ever, you know, one of my great mentors, he told me, he's like, nothing's ever as good as you think it is, and nothing's ever as bad. And taking that into account, you know, I think about all those perspectives, and you know, that's sort of my way to keep going and like keep the pressure off. I don't know what you feel.
I'm just delusional. I just stay delusional about it. I feel like I'm just naturally not, like I can stay calm easily. And so I just keep thinking that this is a choice I make every day doing this. And sometimes it's the harder way, but again, I always remind myself that I really wouldn't rather do anything else. And other than that, some more practical things, like I just keep a good routine, and I know when us co-founders in our team hang out, that always helps the pressure, because you're always at different mindsets on different weeks. So talking about it really helps. Talking about our vision, that helps, and you know, having fun together.
And the government should sponsor therapy for founders. I think that's like
we should offer therapy.
IBZ therapy session.
Yeah,
Oh my
honestly,
God.
on these couches, I'd go.
Yeah, clearly it's got to be like daily. What I'm hearing from everyone here.
Oh my God.
No, but I will say that having a co-founder like Camila, for example, that has such a strong mindset. Like anytime we're at the lowest of the low and things are going wrong, Camila's like, I don't care. We're $1 billion company. Who cares? And we just kind of keep that momentum going, and like having someone there that can like pull everyone out of that ditch and just say like keep going. It's incredibly important for a team.
Amazing. Do you have any questions, or should I go with?
For it.
I have like, oh my God, cue cards after cue card. Okay, so this question is interesting. So we often have founders ask us what investors look for in startups, but today I want to do the other way around, switch gears and ask you, what do you guys look for in an investor?
So when we started, we were so desperate for money that I was going to take anything, honestly. And I remember Brian, he sits over there. He's always in the space. He's amazing.
Where's Brian?
Shout
out to
Brian left the space,
Okay,
but
shout out
shout
to
out Brian. Shout out Brian.
Shout out to Brian. I remember he came to me, and then he went to a couple of the advisors at the IBZ, and he said, I think they're going to be making the biggest mistake of their startup if they take the other angels' money. And honestly, I was going to take it, because at that point, like, we just needed money. And when you need the money, I don't think you care like what's behind it. You don't understand the consequences of that money until it comes later. And so when that investor came in, he asked, we gave him a little bit more equity. So when someone asks for a lower valuation of your company, it means they want a bigger piece of the pie. And we agreed to it for the sole purpose that he's a podcaster. He's connected to all the brands that are advertising on podcasts, and are connected to some of the biggest podcasting agencies in the world. And so to us, the amount of money and potential revenue that could have brought in was just a lot higher than how much we were giving him, or like potentially how much that would matter at this point in the stage of the company. So to us, like moving forward, what that taught us is when looking at investors, it is so important that they have such a strategic point to the company, and there's a reason that they're investing in the company. If it's just dumb money, it's going to be expensive money, and they're not going to add any value, because essentially they're a team member. Like when they own a piece of the company, they're part of the team, right? So just exactly like treating it like your first hire. That's what I started looking for.
Yeah.
I think you said it perfectly. Finding a strategic partner, and like our investors now, they've really guided us throughout the way. There was a lot of directions we were taking, and they kind of pushed us the other way that ended up being beneficial to us and got us to this point. So yeah, we always look for strategic partners above all. I know in the beginning, it's either you get the money or you die. So it's easy to just go for whatever is easiest. But yeah, they are a team member, and they have to be beneficial to the team.
Have you guys said no to investors?
We've had a couple interesting situations that I won't get into now.
Okay. Yeah. No, just curious.
Just a few. But what we're really looking for is people that really understand the vision, because I'm sure you've experienced this too. It's like if you talk to people that don't get the vision, and even if they're offering money, it's just like it's not it for you. And even just hopping to a Zoom call with someone that doesn't understand the vision, like you can tell right away. Versus the people that are like, I believe so, like full-heartedly what you're building, it's going to be the future. I want in on this. It's a different vibe versus someone that's like, I don't really get it, but you guys are kind of cool. It's like we want the other one where it's like really, heart to heart.
Believe in the vision and believe in us as the co-founding team is also important.
I'm willing to talk to you at night, in the morning, like literally.
Yeah.
I just called my advisor and investor like at 10 p.m. I'm like, I need your help. And they're like, okay, what's going on? Right? Like that's so important to me.
Yeah.
Right?
And they have the expertise to contribute to the
Yeah.
company. So that's great. How are we doing time?
We are rounding up.
Are
We
we?
have time for one more.
Okay, one more question. Okay, let me see. Okay. How did you prepare for your investor pitch? Any do's and don'ts? Any tips and tricks you want to share with the audience?
Also, just to add on, by the way, I'm hearing a lot of growth from how you guys started to where you're at now. I'd also love to hear how that investor pitch has changed as well with your mindset.
Okay, that would be the last question. That's a long one.
Yes.
I think our first pitch to Antler, we had like 72-hour notice. And we've never pitched before, right?
No, that was our first
That was our first ever in-person pitch. I've never had any experience doing it. I was straight out of school. So it was just 72 long hours of creating a pitch deck, practicing, memorizing. I remember the car ride there was so quiet because we were all just repeating everything in our heads, thinking about questions to ask them, because like you were saying earlier, it's just as important for us to have our investors that we want, and not just anyone just for the money. Yeah.
How many slides do you guys prepare for?
That one was a lot. That
was a
one,
lot.
normally we do like 12 slides, right? The typical deck.
Yeah.
We presented
9 to 12.
everything about the business because they were like, we're really interested in you guys. We want to know every detail. And so we're like,
How long did you have?
So we had an hour. We got there early, around 10:40. They showed up and they're like, you guys just want to do it now? And we're like, yeah, let's just, we wanted to practice more, but we're like, yeah, let's just do it now. And we went in with really high energy. That's something our team's kind of known for these days, I guess. And we crushed the pitch, we crushed the Q&A, and we just developed a really strong relationship from that day with them.
So you had a 1 hour meeting.
1 hour.
I think it was supposed to be like 10 minutes, but like our conversations were just so good that it lasted like an hour.
Yeah, a lot of Q&A.
Yeah.
That means they're interested.
Yeah.
They ask questions, right?
I'd say it was a really just genuine connection.
Were you guys nervous going into it?
I think we were nervous, but in a good way. I think there's a quote about that. It's like if you're nervous and that adrenaline's coming, it's like a good thing. I think we were. We do this thing where we have like a little group hug before everything. And we're like, whatever happens, happens. Let's just do our best. Because one thing that we do is we don't want to regret our execution. We can't control other people's way they perceive us and their decisions, but we can control our own execution. So everything we do, like the reveal day we just did, it was really important for us to execute at 100%. And then, whatever happens from there, and we can't control it. And that was kind of like our saving mentality. And it's been to this time because, pitching even to the reveal day really recently, like that was probably the most nerve-wracking experience of my entire life. They were all very, established investors, and getting up on stage with the mic and being like, hey, we do this stuff was really hard. And so just being able to control your own way that you execute, the energy you bring, the confidence you bring, I think that saved us from the nerves. And I'd recommend every other founder do the same.
Love that. And you guys execute 200%.
Thank you.
So yeah, I got people messaging me while you guys are presenting.
That's awesome.
So super proud.
I want to hear the
Yeah.
presentation now.
I will send you the
That's
video
awesome.
actually.
Send
Yeah,
us the video,
please do.
please share it. If
Absolutely.
you don't mind, share it with the crowd. So
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
think anyone can learn a few things from your pitch.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
Rand?
For me, well, it started with the 25K that we won, and then we won another $32,000, and so like that was like the first time we've ever pitched UCast. And then it started with like just very generic product overview, vision. It was like very, very high level. And then the more serious it got with investors, of course, the more metric focused it became. And then it shifted back to high level because we realized for such a small company, metric don't make sense. Like, what does it mean to have 30% growth month over month? It means you've added one client, right?
Yeah.
So that like it did not make sense for us to present metric when we were such a small company. And so we shifted back to, okay, what is the overall like vision, how we're going to grow, and just like we kept it high level. So that's really how we went about it. I'm going to keep it short because I know we're running out of time.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's perfect.
Should we open the floor
Yeah, we
up
can switch
for
over to the audience
questions
questions.
from
We can start with the live audience, yeah, and
No,
I think-
I think we should start from people who showed us support.
yeah, the live audience.
Oh, okay.
The live audience.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'll go through some of the online audience questions in the
Yes,
meantime, make sure I
yes.
collect them all. But yeah, for those of you online, please feel free to drop in your questions now. But in the meantime, you guys take it away.
Live audience.
All right, I got a question. First off, great presentation, really insightful from all of you, so thank you for that. So my question to all of you is, it seems like a commonality between all of you is, some mentor, some guidance in some regard. So I guess my question would be, how important is it to kind of find that right mentor to kind of help you nurture this idea?
I think it's key. And it's not necessarily about,
Is it more important than the investor? Is kind of what I'm trying to figure out.
well, we've learned everything through our mentors.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
probably. And they've gotten us to the point where we can even have investment. And it's also just you get better mentors as you go on. So it may not be, and it won't be perfect in the beginning or even in the middle. But eventually, the more connections you have, the more you network, the differences in your company changes who's mentoring you. And then you'll, along the way, meet amazing people.
I would probably say the support community is absolutely key to an early stage startup's growth. I think immersing yourself with people that are really supporting you is fundamental because there's so many downs that you just, like, there's so many days you're like, oh man,
Yeah.
like, what is happening? Am I doing the right thing? Is this worth pursuing? And you need that community to be like, raise you back up again after things get really tough.
Yeah, very similar where I always tell my advisor today, without him, not only would I have given up a long time ago, we would not have even raised without him. So just a backstory, he's this 26-year-old guy who built a company up to 100 million valuation in 2 years, raised from some of the biggest VCs in the world, from Vesper, from the CEO of Twitter himself. So he's gone through the trenches at a very high growth rate. And so he was able to prevent every single mistake that could have killed the company, essentially, with fundraising, with relationships with clients, with everything. And there are just such emotional days that you cannot think straight. And I think the advantage of the advisor was he was able to sit me down and be like, let's look at the numbers. Let's come up with a plan. If this is not working, let's pivot, right? Because really, if things are not going to work, it's inevitable. It's really learning how to pivot. And that's, I think, the biggest key factor. It's teaching us how to pivot well and quickly.
And the very last thing I'd add is, the founder journey is a very lonely journey. You can't go to your family and say, hey, I'm going through problems. This client just dropped on me, or this just happened. No one gets it.
Yeah.
And so having people around you that do get it is very important. Because otherwise you'll seem crazy and you'll think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Or delusional.
Yeah.
That's definitely been called delusional.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone.
Thank you.
The questions from the live audience.
question.
Yes.
You guys mentioned avoiding mistakes and stuff like that. What's the biggest mistake that you guys have made? And how did you overcome that?
Hey, go.
Everything.
What one mistake that you can think of on the top of your head?
Biggest mistake?
Or one of the mistakes.
Maybe what's one mistake you could have made? Like, what was the biggest mistake you could have made, but you didn't?
Yeah, I think if I made the biggest mistake, I don't think we'd be alive today. So, yeah, the biggest mistake we could have made was take the wrong money. I think those investors were pushing us to spend fast and grow at an unprecedented rate that was not possible and did not allow for innovation. So that could have been the biggest mistake that we made. Also, small mistake, not like deadly, but spending dollars on marketing like very early, like worst money I've ever spent in my life. Yeah, that's a small mistake.
That almost happened to us too.
Yeah.
Alan was like,
Yeah.
"Are you guys sure you want to spend this much money on marketing?" And we're like, "Maybe we're not." And then we kind of walked through the exercise, and we're like, "We definitely did not."
Yeah.
We were way too early to spend any money on marketing. The product was not there. We were in beta mode. It would have been a disaster. So that probably did save our company.
Yeah.
But yeah, made quite a bit of mistakes. I think one.
Being broad.
Yes,
beta,
I was just gonna say that. We launched our beta a bit broad in the market. Instead of being like really focused, like matching the direct content with the direct type of user, we launched it and we were just kind of like, let's just see what happens. That's not the best strategy if you're trying to do a beta really fast and then raise money. You probably want to be really specific at the core metrics, and that was something that we kind of learned the hard way.
But it did help us in terms of it just got us out there. Where if we didn't launch it at that point, we would have still been in our heads and trying to perfect the product and everything in between, and it would have probably just delayed everything.
That is such a good point. I don't know why founders imagine when they launch their MVP or beta that like the whole world's gonna look at it and
The whole
like,
world
budget.
wants you.
Yeah. If it has to be so perfect when you launch it, like, that's not true at all. You just gotta get it out there.
Right. And then iterate based on the market response.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. Other questions from the audience? Oh, sign up.
How do you guys balance the pace of running the business side and the product side? Like, I know a little bit about business skills, but you can, yeah.
That's a good question. I actually want to hear how you guys. I have a question, maybe like related to it. How you guys manage fundraising full time with product and customers and all that? Because I like that's something. Yeah. For me, product and business. I was lucky enough that I had enough product experience that I was able to manage it at such a high level and delegate at such a high level that I was able to like from like the get-go see what's wrong and be able to tell everyone how to fix it and like where we need to fix it based on customer feedback and user experience. So I think that worked to the advantage where like every day I just spend maybe like 30 minutes on product and then the rest completely goes to business for me. Yeah.
I think we're lucky because you handle business and then I handle a product, and then I kind of just have to know what's going on in the business and keep my hands on there, but I can put my full attention in the product and make sure they're linked and they're corresponding. Whereas Nathan, you can focus on the business and advancing it, and you just kind of have to know what's going on with the product and make sure they're linked.
Exactly. I think, yeah, we're really lucky. We have 3 co-founders, so we just divide and conquer. Like Camille's heads down on product. I'm heads down on, obtaining more clients. We have another co-founder that she's heads down on ensuring the whole business is just, she's the backbone of the business. And then we kind of split fundraising from there. And yeah, I mean, we had a great communication from the start of the business. So like we're up to date on everything going on for the whole time. And so I just think, communication probably, it's kind of a sucky answer, but it really just comes down to, communicating at the pace. I think we put our devs through a bit much though. Just like the last month or two, we kind of like.
Nathan's very like, we have to do this and we have to do it now. And I'm like,
You should prioritize.
You have to
we do this
prioritize.
now, we do this later on.
I get excited. I talk to clients, so this would be awesome. Like, oh, it'd be so awesome. And
Nathan
then,
is very gung-ho. about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think I put my dev through like last couple of months. I put them through hell because like every time a bug comes up, like on the group chat, all caps, I'm like, I'm fast, which is like he's our main dev, and I'm just like all caps, I'm fast, and he's like, what? And like, so I put them through hell the last month and a half, but honestly, like, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Not putting them through hell, but like
Cool.
the experience itself. Yeah.
They deserve some time off.
They do. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Do you have any questions from the online audience?
We do.
Okay.
If you could give the pre-startup you any piece of advice, what would it be?
Ooh.
I have one that I tell every single founder that I meet, and it's that discovery is a continuous process. My past self thought it was a checkbox. You do it once, you check it off, and you keep going.
Love that.
It's not true. It's a continuous process. You always need to have an ear to the ground with the market.
Yeah.
Always talk to your customers, get their feedback on the product, and just keep going from there. Because honestly, if you just do it once and continue from there, things change so fast that suddenly you're building a product that nobody's using, nobody wants. And so it's really important to just continually talk to the user base.
Love that answer.
I would say get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're constantly learning things and changing and doing things you've never done, and that's uncomfortable. So, and that's going to be an everyday thing. So just be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you're going to keep going and learning and growing.
Yeah. I think be as delusional as you can be. That's I think like as soon as you put yourself in the box as a founder, like you see everything that is wrong with everything, and that will drive you crazy. Yeah. So just staying focused on the vision always, and stop like focusing on like the small like hypes. It's like with product, you always see, oh my God, we can do this. Oh my God, we can get this customer. Oh my God, look at this. But it just distracts you. So like stay focused.
Absolutely. Well, I personally have a quick question as well. What's been your favorite memory, your happiest memory so far during this entire journey? We always call it's like an uphill battle, but there's always plus sides here. So I'd love to hear your favorite
I
memory
know for
from.
Ren is when she saw the money.
Yeah, no, it was actually after. It was after I saw the money. I took my co-founder and my advisor to a $500 dinner steak.
Wow.
And we celebrated, and that was my favorite memory.
Next
Next time.
Okay.
There was a lot of like good memories, small good memories. I remember one time we were sitting in our investor's office kind of recently. I think this was only a couple months ago, and the three of us came into the office separately. And the way the office, you have a Toronto skyline view. And at the end, like we were getting ready to leave, and at the end we were all kind of like, I just had such a good feeling coming in today. Like it was so surreal. I was like, I saw the Toronto skyline, and I just thought to myself, like, I'm actually here, and I'm going to my investor's office, and I'm here, I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. And that was like a very weird, surreal moment that we all had separately at the same time. And it was just, it was rewarding to talk about it and to recognize that.
I think for me, it was the moment we finished the pitch at reveal day and we're logging back, and I looked at my co-founder, was like, it was like the most surreal feeling, because like the pressure on us to perform that night, and we were what I like to say, like we were the last ones in the court, like just practicing over and over again, and all night, the morning of, like just, and so it was just such a relief to actually execute on it. The moment that we saw the crowd's reaction, the moment that we went back and sat down, and all of that pressure was off. It was just like just an amazing moment, and we're just so happy about it.
Yeah.
We do have one more question.
Okay,
in
we
the
have
chat.
time for one more.
How can entrepreneurship or even being a startup founder change you as an individual?
Oh, we're getting very philosophical
Yeah,
questions.
philosophical,
Very deep
yeah.
questions from the audience. Okay.
Why is everyone looking at me? I wish I could tell you. No, but I think we went through some serious growth. We just graduated, and like I feel like 100 years old sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the amount of stuff that we've learned and have to continue to learn. I think it changed me in a number of ways. I think the thing that I tell a lot of people is that recognizing that you're not the smartest person in your room, you're not the most experienced person in the room, but having something where like that sheer determination, that's really powerful. And I've learned that about myself, is like I'm never the most experienced in the person in the room. I'm usually the youngest person in the room. I'm definitely not the smartest person in the room, but I do have that sheer determination, and that's something that I've been very close to my heart. And yeah, I think that's what kind of was given to me through entrepreneurship is just going through those ups and downs, making it this far, and continuing to grow, and then being like, I can do this. We can all do this. And,
Yeah, I think back all the time to myself last year, even like 6 months ago, and I always think like I'm so different and I've grown so much, and it's just a constant growth cycle, which is so important and so good. I think one of the many things I've learned is to separate logic and emotion, and that's something that entrepreneurship's really instilled in me, and that's so valuable in life in general. And also just the fact like how hard I can push myself, how hard I can go, is something that I've recognized, and it's been useful because I know now that I don't have to stop when I'm tired. I can keep going, and I'm okay, and it's always rewarding.
Yeah, it's very inspirational.
I think I became more cynical, honestly. Honestly. No, not more cynical, but more so like, I don't know, just like the previous things that I found so glorious just don't mean much to me. Like when I first started the journey, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be so rich. And now it's like, oh my God, we're building a company. Like how crazy is it, right?
Yeah,
So just
crazy
like
as it sounds.
exactly. And so I think just like my shifts and my priorities in life like completely shifted, and just the way I look at things are just like very different now.
Cool.
Awesome. There don't seem to be any more questions in the chat.
So-
Are there any more from you? Or
Okay, I guess this is the.
that is
This is
it.
the applause
That is
time.
it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
I guess, is there anything that you guys that we as an audience can look out for in the future from you guys?
Oh,
A shameless plug, if you will.
Shameless plug. Please tell us how can we learn more about UCAS and Miniskill. Where can we go to download the app if we haven't already? So
yes, we are coming out of beta mode, so you can just go to the App Store, download it. I recommend going to the community tab, which is the third tab. It has 3 little people, and join a community. Check it out, interact with the founders, and have fun in there. It's really meant for you guys, so own it, really.
yeah, Miniskill. Please
One
try it
word.
out and give us feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of feedback.
Yeah, just find me on LinkedIn. It is B2B, so it's less like there's no call to action here.
But you
But
have
yeah.
a community of supporters who
Yes,
can cheer you on.
exactly.
right?
So just find me on LinkedIn, connect with me. I just love chatting with founders. Yeah,
And Ren is always here if you want to poke her. Yeah.
yeah. It's
She
where
has
the-
her dedicated desk.
I have my dedicated desk. It's very big.
And speaking of things to look out for, do we get the next slide real quick? Here's something that
Wow,
we
shameless
as
plug from IBZ.
IBZ is doing. So Cece, if you want to quickly explain this.
Oh yeah, so we're launching we've launched already a new program called Race. Essentially, it's a 9-week hybrid program that helps founders become investor ready. Make sure you're checking all the boxes on your to-do list by the end of it. Very excited, and the secret sauce to this is that you'll be matched and assigned to your dedicated advisor who is a founder who has raised money in the past. And yeah, it's a great program. If you're interested in this, you can scan the QR code or just go on
our
our
website.
website to learn more
Somebody
about
will
it.
drop the link in the chat for our live online audience as well. And,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Whoever's doing that, thank you. Yeah, so that was our little shameless
Yeah.
plug.
And then lastly, just a huge thank you once again to
Yeah,
everybody for showing
thank you
up.
so
Thanks
much.
so much.
guys.
Everybody's
That
emails
was
on the
fun.
screen. You guys
Yeah.
can connect with them through the QR codes, LinkedIn, it's all there. Thank you so
Yeah.
much once again. And thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
And thank you to the live audience, online audience,
Online.
for joining us as well. It's
Sure.
it's been wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Take some food and drinks with you if you want.
I
I
will.
mean, we bought we were expecting 28 people.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, but thank you for coming.
They showed up in spirit. They showed up in spirit.
Yeah, they showed up in spirit. We have many people online, so that was
Yeah.
good.
All right.
Anyways.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. That was fun. Yeah.
My phone was going crazy the entire time. I'm like, shit.